So
good.
why do you think you avoided these seasons with the Lord in your Christian life of discipline and maturity? And what changed for you? Like, why are you so much more into this now?
We touched on one of the reasons last week in the podcast, that because of my natural bend toward needing to perform and be on bring my best all the time. That's been my history, has been largely, I think, our whole world is like that in the West, like the way kids are discipled through school and most homes, and you're taught to do your best, to show your best, to look your best all the time. And if you are good enough, you could be the best at something. So when you have that posture and you come into Christianity, the gospel message fiercely opposes that. That if you try to bring your best to the Lord, it's not even close to what we need to be able to approach him and have a life with him.
Yeah, like Paul said, it was considered as filthy rags.
All his
Rubbish.
righteousness, was nothing compared to the surpassing worth of knowing Christ. That's the whole gospel message, that Jesus was perfection. Romans says in chapter 3, after he says that the gospel is, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is powerful enough to save. And then he says, for it pleased God to have all of his righteousness dwell in Jesus and be revealed in him. And that means that Christ, he fulfilled the perfect standard of God in his life. Like, God's perfect eternal standard was fulfilled in the life of Jesus. Like, it's an amazing statement. Like, wow. So there's nothing we can bring to the table. So bringing that performance mindset to God just doesn't work. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Not in terms of salvation. I knew that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't get in by my good works. I can't get into heaven by my good works. But I almost tried to live by my good works and not continually rely on and depend on the Lord. Be poor in spirit, be meek and humble, and allow my weaknesses to show so that the power of God could be perfected in my life and in my ministry. So because of that, it was sometimes too hard to face the fact that I wasn't good enough in my life. So if the Lord was bringing discipline, if the Lord was bringing a test that was revealing, okay, I'm trying to put on a front here. I'm trying to hide my imperfections, but God's wanting to bring them out. Now, that's quite debilitating for someone it's humiliating, to have that at the front, in front of people. So for me, I ran away from it. I was like, nah, I don't want to show people my weaknesses, not in this area. Like, I want to keep pretending I've got it all together. So
how did you feel about showing God your weaknesses?
I think most of the time, no, actually, sometimes it was okay, but it was still even the verbal realizing and confrontation of saying it out loud was humiliating, like within myself. So even in the prayer closet, there wasn't much real prayer going on. There's a lot of prayer about what I wanted to see God do in my life. It was more about the promise and not about my broken heart and my relationship with the Lord. Like, there were seasons of when I was a youth pastor, Friday nights are just a big night. Like, you're going ham the whole time since 9 a.m. till like 11 at night. So it's a big day. And I would get to the end of the night, man, I was so cooked and so down. Like it's such a high, some of those ministry experiences and nights and church services. And it was, I remember just like locking up the gate at one of the churches I was working at. And I was just it was like everything was just coming down. And the person I was portraying was not who I really was and what was really going on. And I couldn't connect them because I was so afraid of if I was my true self, I would be rejected. God wouldn't work through me because if you're not your best, you can't be the best. So I'd get to the end of the night and I'd be so exhausted. I'd be depressed. I'd be down. I'd be thinking about how everyone hates me. And I'd be like, I literally was like, I don't want to see anyone for 2 days until Sunday because that's another church day. And then I got to flick on the switch again and pretend to be someone I'm not. So this is the reality of what happens when you don't go through the process of testing and refinement with God. You can stay in these places where you are not being who God has called you to be. You're pretending to be someone else.
Wow.
It's debilitating. It's exhausting. And that's how people burn out.
Yeah.
In life, in ministry. It's a horrible place to be.
Yep. Don't I know it?
Yeah.
When did you relent and let the Lord purify that place for you? Because your life doesn't look like that now.
No. It all started in the very next season. Summer and I, after we'd gotten married, we started at another church, Glow Church, that we were there for a few years. And we had a wonderful experience there. Something that they really modeled there was that, like, just to be yourself. And that really caught wind in my spirit. So that was the beginning process of like, okay, people are just themselves here. That's a great thing. And that was new for me. So as that process began to happen, then I was far more willing to let God into that space. So I'd say that's how it started. And that's not a bad thing either. Like, imitation in the faith is a really good thing. Like, we need those who have gone before. We need to almost see it sometimes to know what it looks like a bit more. Now, post that season, there were other things that God had to do in my heart, with idolatry. But at the very least, that was such a pivotal moment for me to go, okay, I need to get this right in my heart. I need to be true to who God has made me to be. Start to settle in that. And as I trusted him with that, and even more so even recently, more so the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, that has been like letting yourself out of a prison. Because it's actually not as bad as you think it's going to be when you stop putting on the mask and just be yourself. And that's where the grace is. That's where the power is.
Yeah.
Because we are broken vessels with this treasure. And as the cracks show, the treasure shines through. So I used to kind of pretend I was this crazy, big, extroverted person. Because when you're in ministry, you're kind of forced to do that. Talk to hundreds of people a weekend, and just cooked me. Felt afraid of leaving gaps in conversations and not leading people to Christ, and all this stuff is just like making you so exhausted. But when I was settling into like, okay, this is who I am. I don't have to pretend to be extroverted. I don't have to keep holding this conversation. There's nothing there. I don't have to lead every person to Christ. the Holy Spirit does that, and I can start to rest in what the Lord wants to do.
Yeah.
And I guess as I started to heed the discipline of the Lord and actually let him do the work, I was seeing the fruit on the other side, going, oh, I'm experiencing a work of maturity. Like, there is revelation, intimacy, and authority there that I didn't have before. And I didn't make that happen. I'm not putting on the mask to portray that.
Mm-hmm.
No, those three things are now authentic.
Yeah.
And it feels really good. There's a joy there.
Yeah. There's a rest in it.
Yeah, like it came from God. And I can't just turn it on and off. It's just there, or it's not. So, maybe just a little bit of insight into my journey.
Yeah, that's good, man.